Okay, so about 8 months ago, I did a video about this unit. This is an Elite Desk, this could be an HP Elite Slice. Got Elite Desk on the brain. This would be considered, I guess, their G1 or their first gen. There's a second gen that sometimes would come out and it's much fatter, et cetera, et cetera. The whole reason I made the video was because when I purchased it on eBay through a auction, I didn't really look close enough at the description, and it said that it was quote untested. Well, I got it home and plugged everything in, plugged in the normal 65 watt power supply that it's set to use. Nothing. No beeps, no anything. Hitting the power button, taking stuff out, taking RAM out, doing whatever. No response whatsoever. And I was a little mad at myself, a little mad at maybe the process, the seller, et cetera, et cetera. But I said, okay, at least I can get I can get the CPU out of it. It had an i5-6500T. I could get some memory. I think it may have had a SSD in it. I don't quite remember. But it just really bugged me because it's such a cool looking unit. It's not really for the consumer. It was sold as something that you would put in probably like a conference room, and it just looks slick and everything. So I was a little disheartened. But then I started doing a little more research, and before I totally stripped everything, I wanted just to see if there was anything else I could do. And a couple people mentioned about hooking it up to the USB port, because supposedly you could power this via USB-C. And even some of the docs show someone that had, let's say, a certain HP monitor, and it had USB-C out, and you could run your slice over it, etc. So I thought, well, I guess I could give that a try. So I hooked up a Dell USB-C power supply to it because I didn't have an HP one. And let me see if I can show on film what that looked like when I hooked it up. Okay, let's see. Plugged it in, and at least I got something to show up. So you'll notice there's a beat pattern. And this is, I guess, what it uses if it can't do the normal audible beeps. And so I started looking at it and trying to figure out what was the difference. And it says that sometimes it will turn white and sometimes it will turn red. So I would get like 3 red, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe my count's a little off. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Well, somewhere in there, it's supposed to be the combination of 3 long or 3 red and 4 white. And it's probably so dim, it's hard to see. From what I recall, I had to almost like put my hand over it a little bit and block the light so that I could see the pattern. And it came out to a pattern of 3 and 4, which means that it didn't like the power supply. But at least I got some sort of feedback, and meaning that there's something going on. It's at least it knows that there's normally if you were to hook up a 65 watt power supply on something that needs 90, you'll get the audible beeps, 3 and 4, three long, 4 short. And so you'll know that, okay, I need to maybe get a different power supply, one that's got more juice, etc. In this case, it wasn't a juice thing. It was the fact that it was a Dell USB-C adapter. So I kind of kept that in mind, and I was looking on websites, and people were saying, yeah, it's very picky, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of put it all aside because I had other ones I wanted to play with. And then I said, it was still gnawing at me. And I went on eBay and I was able to find a genuine HP USB-C power supply. So I got that home. Let's get that connected. So when I initially had this new HP USB-C power supply, I had gone and purchased an inexpensive i3-6100T CPU because the other CPU that was in here, the 6500T, I'd already put in another unit. And I didn't know what was going to work, so I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I think I got it from like $6 just for the CPU. And I figured I was going to plug in, see how things go. So at first, I plug it in, and right away, it starts beeping. And I'm like, actual beep as opposed to the, seeing the lights. And I'm listening to the beeps and I'm going, oh shoot, it doesn't like this power supply either. And I was going to pack it in. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Let's listen to that one more time, because I'd forgotten to put the CPU in for the test. I was so gung-ho about checking the power supply and thinking that was, all I needed, that I completely forgot. So I went back and I'm looking through some docs about beeps, and I see that just below where it's 3 long and 4 short, there's 3 long and 5 short, or I guess you call it 3.5, whatever you want to call it, 3.5. That one is, it doesn't like the CPU. So I'm like, oh, well, that's very encouraging because I've got power going in. It's telling me it doesn't like the CPU. Let's try putting the CPU in. So I open it up, clean everything out, thermal paste, and put in some memory, etc., etc. Plug it in. This time, no beeps. And I was getting excited, and I had hooked up what I usually use for the connections to the display port. I have an adapter that goes from display port to HDMI, and I'm looking at the screen and nothing's coming up, and I'm getting disheartened again. I'm like, what's going on? And so finally I said, okay, well, let me try it again, and let's try plugging into the HDMI just straight. And I turn everything off, turn it on, and what do you know? I see that lovely HP logo up on the screen, and I go into the BIOS, and I've got a working unit. The really funny thing is then I thought, oh, well, I must have a dead display port. And so later I'm doing some testing, I'm doing various things, and I happen to use a different adapter, exact same model and so forth, but it's just a slightly newer one. It works fine. So it was actually the adapter was wrong. So sometimes when you're doing these tests or you're trying to get stuff to work, it may not be the unit. It could just be that weird things with your power supply, weird things with your cables, who knows? So this is now living. And I can show you, I don't have all the rest of the stuff, but at least we can have the satisfaction of seeing, yeah, you can see it flashing there. It is booting. Yep. Oh, actually even made the little window sound as it's going in. So what I guess kind of the purpose of the video then was to say, hey, sometimes if you have the option, you may try using a USB-C power supply. I still can't get it to work with the normal one. I tried again and again, it's still dead as a doornail, but at least now I've got a working unit. Yeah, it cost me another $20 to get this power supply, but a lot cheaper than getting a whole other unit. And you may want to keep an eye. I've seen a couple times where people said, "Hey, it just stopped working one day. It just wouldn't turn on their Elite Slice." Maybe it's the same problem, and maybe you can get that thing inexpensive and just get one of the power supplies. I'll include the specs on the back. I wanted to kind of open this up real quick, just kind of show you some of the innards. I'll show you some of the numbers from Geekbench that I got. Now, granted, it's not using the native one, which was the 6500. It's got the 61. I really didn't feel like putting it back in because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to utilize this anyway. If I get to the point where I'm going to do something more with it, then maybe I'll boost up the processor. So let's crack this open. Of course, we'll turn everything off first. You turn it upside down. There are 4 Phillips right here. And since I got sort of re-inspired with this unit, I looked up some more specs on it. Comes with a Windows 10 Pro license, which is nice. Of course, it doesn't, it's not truly supported by Windows 11, but you can install Windows 11. Follow my videos that show how to do it on unsupported hardware. Inside the cover, you can see all the same specs as far as serial number, product, even shows the license, Windows 10, and it mimics like the other ones where it tells you the specs that it originally came with, which was the i5-6500T. Looks like it came with a 256 KB drive. Excuse me, not KB, GB drive, 8 gig of RAM. 3-year warranty, which is nice, all right. You can update the BIOS the same way you can with the Elite desks through the BIOS. It has a way where we'll connect, call back to the HP mothership and grab it. This is where you put the memory. DDR4, I've got 2 8 gig sticks there. This is a SSD that I installed. What you do is there's 4 screws here. You take this whole unit out and you can slide in the drive. And then before you slide it in, you can add some additional screws to kind of keep it there. For my particular case, I change it. I just put in 1 little screw here just to kind of hold it down. Okay, so with this upside down, we've got more Phillips that we have to do. Again, 4 more here. And this is going to detach the top from the rest of the unit. It's not as nice to work on as your ProDesk Elite Desk. It's kind of in between. Well, you got both extremes. You got like that Wave 600 that I showed before in one of the videos, where you're just not going to get to the motherboard at all. The Pavilion 300, that little I don't know, UFO looking thing, that's a little better. This is better than that, but it's it's still a little cumbersome. You get your top here. There's not really much to it. Just kind of put that to the side. And what I don't like is now you're turning it upside down. You kind of have everything, well, maybe not exposed, but it's just, you're gonna, if you want to take out the CPU, I'll show you how that goes. You've got 3 screws, they're numbered, same kind of way, where we can loosen. Normally, if you had it set up, you'd have you could have your Wi-Fi card right here. This one didn't have an antenna, so it wouldn't be the greatest, but you could might be able to get by with using some sort of adapter in there if you wanted to add another drive. This lifts up. There's your CPU. Heatsink is this whole thing with the fan. Little cumbersome. You do have access down here to 2280 M.2 slot. So you could add that as a, another drive or your boot drive, and maybe use the SSD on the other side for something. So that's kind of nice. It's all, kind of compact there. This battery, it actually has like a connector, so that's a little proprietary. I don't know, maybe they make ones like this that that are a little more generic for that kind of connector. Let me know in the comments if that's something that is normal, readily available, as opposed to your other kinds of lithium batteries that you put in the other units. Just tighten this down. I'm also curious to hear about folks that have had units that they thought were dead, and then, I don't know, through some epiphany, you tried something and it came back to life. You got it working there. You want to put it on so that you see the HP, and you see the front, which would have like the symbol for the Intel, and then you lay it on like that. Then you can flip it back. Flip it back and tighten back the Phillips. These are also kind of expandable. They sell a DVD that connects to the bottom. You can also get a very fancy Bang Olufsen kind of speaker setup. And what happens is that now when you put this back on, there's really only one way, because it's got to fit over this connector. This is the connector that when you're laying the other units, this is how it communicates with it, which is kind of nice. You don't have extra cables. It's all, it sort of meshes together and nice and clean. I might look at it. I think I saw the DVDs for like maybe 25-ish, something like that. I'll keep an eye if they come down significantly. Maybe I'll pick one up, put that in another video. And that's about it as far as getting it back together. Let me fire it up, and I'll just kind of show you some of the numbers in there, and maybe we'll do some power tests and thermals. Okay, we're inside of Windows. The power is running around 8 watts after everything kind of settled down. It kind of started out around 35, settled itself down, so now we're... Actually, it kind of fluctuates. It just seems kind of jumping around. Anywhere from 8 watts up to 24, but we'll kind of see how things go. Maybe what we'll do is a heavy load, and we'll see what it peaks at
We'll see what the core temperatures. Right now we're hovering around 43, low 40s. So let's launch heavy load. Okay, we'll see. We'll run this for 5 minutes and see what happens with the power and temperature. Okay, right away it shot up to around 40 watts, and it's pretty consistently staying there. We'll come back after 5 minutes. One thing I can say about it is that the fan is relatively quiet. With this running, I'm actually hearing my computer, which is running the video capture. It's much louder, and that's running on a 7500T. This one's the 6100T, and fan sounds fine. Obviously the thermals are going up. We're only about maybe halfway through the test so far. Okay, we're at our 5-minute mark. Looks like about 62 on the temp. Power didn't really go more than maybe 41 watts. Let's stop it and see what happens to the power and the temps. Well, power is kind of all over the place. It is dropping. It dropped to about 8, but then it kind of shot back up to around 35. So it could be that maybe it's trying to do the work to cool itself. You notice the core temps. It's possible that we did have higher core temps. It just wasn't recording because it was taking up so much of the CPU. So maybe our temps were closer. Looks like we hit a maximum of 70. Okay, here are the Geekbench scores. Our slice is right here. 940 for single and 1944 for multi. Now, granted, it is running an i3-6100T, so it's a little better than some of the 4th gen ones. But if you were to jump ahead and look at the Pavilion Wave, that's also an i3-6100T, and the numbers are much better. I mean, that's 1107 and 2376. That's a good 10-15% better for both single and multi. So it kind of makes you wonder as far as the overall performance of it. I don't think I have any other on here of the that's the only one I've got on here that's a similar CPU. So it kind of gives you an idea. Those thermals finally starting to come down a little bit here, and the power is finally down in the 8 or 9 watt range, but it definitely took it some time to a good probably 5 minutes for it to cool down, where other ones you see it almost immediate. So, and this isn't a high power CPU either. It's only 2 core. So it's a very very nice looking unit, similar in size to the Pro and Elite desks. It just has definitely a cool factor to it. So might be something to consider. I think the prices are a little high for them, for what you're getting. You're definitely paying for the uniqueness of it, because you can, a similar G3 even, is a lot cheaper. This also does have this, as I mentioned before, almost like a G2 version. But really the big difference with that is it comes standard with the i5 7500T, but you could put a 7500T in this one. Yeah, maybe if you want the more stacked and so forth, but a lot of that in there, I believe, is probably for the speaker than anything else. So, but let me know if others out there viewing this have a slice, and let me know. And also, again, let me know if you've had that computer that you thought was dead on arrival and it did something and brought it back from the dead.